Martin is a widely published writer. His book, Smoke Signals, A Social History of Marijuana, Medical, Recreational, and Scientific, is a winner of the American Botanical Council's James A. Duke Award for Excellence in Botanical Literature. We're so lucky and pleased to have him. It's such an honor. I'd like to introduce Mr. Martin Lee.
Thank you, John. Thanks for the organizers to invite me to Hawaii. It's the first time I've been to Hawaii. We're based in Northern California. A lot happening there, obviously, in terms of cannabis. But it's great to be in Hawaii and sort of see where things are at here, and because there's so many possibilities. It's a very exciting area, cannabis therapeutics, and there's something real going on here, very powerful. CBD has been very significant in terms of the evolution of the medical marijuana experience in the United States, which actually started well before California legalized marijuana for medical use in 1996. But that was certainly a key turning point. And in 2009 in Northern California, I was party to the discovery of these unique strains of cannabis that had prominent amounts of CBD, the cannabidiol, this non-psychoactive component of the plant. Thanks. And we've been following that story ever since. And CBD is a very powerful molecule. It has significant therapeutic potential in many ways. And I think when people saw on CNN a few summers ago, you know, the little children with the epilepsy who were administered a CBD-rich oil and saw the profound impact it had on their heart rendering. You know, they're practically dead. And the next slide, you see or the next moment, they're riding a bicycle and laughing. The trick is it didn't happen overnight. Many months happened between them. But CBD really, I think the program on CNN opened a lot of people's eyes for a couple of reasons. One, the fact that there was something to do with marijuana that was not the assassin of youth, but that was actually saving kids' lives, was a real eye-opener to people. But also this idea that there was marijuana out there that didn't get you high necessarily, but still had a lot of amazing, apparently, health benefits from what we saw on television. And the conversation shifted pretty significantly at the time. And this is a trend long in the making. The perception that marijuana has medical value is something that's been building in the culture for a while. But that was really a tipping point, the CNN show. And it really shifted the discussion, as far as we were seeing it, away from, oh, does it really work, to, no, how do we use it? We understand it works. It's like 90% of Americans in polls are pro-choice with respect to the possibility of their using marijuana for medical purposes under a doctor's supervision. So that debate is over in the culture. Now the issue is, well, how do we use it? And it might be like an odd question, seem like an odd question to pose. I mean, why would I even add? You roll a joint, you smoke it, right? That's what you do, and that's how you get the benefits. And in fact, that activity proved quite beneficial to many people in California and other states before the rediscovery of CBD. It's really all we had with these high THC strains, and it proved great medical value. So there are a couple of key factors, and I'm going to run through some slides quickly now, but that really cast the issue of using it. How do we use it in a new light? When what you had was the option of rolling a joint and smoking it, or maybe eating a brownie, as was the case for a long time, it's in California with medical marijuana, it was fairly simple. That's what you did, and you either liked the experience or not, or it helped you or it didn't. But these days, there are a number of other very key factors at play that has sort of changed the therapeutic landscape quite a bit. First, I have to refer to the rediscovery of CBD. Very, very significant. But also the fact now, the second factor, we have oil concentrates. There's ways of extracting oil from the plant, from the flower top, from the leaves. That's really where it should be extracted from. And you can make very, very potent medicine from that. It is very powerful, whether it's a CBD-rich or a THC-rich oil or a combination of both. the fact that these oils are now around, and it'll be increasingly present, I think, in the medical marijuana milieu in Hawaii as things evolve. You know, in California, it's ubiquitous, these oils. Well, then how do you use them? What does it mean, the fact now that you can know exactly what's in there? You have labs that can measure this stuff, and you can know exactly what you're taking each time. Well, that raises it, you know, it opens up a different dimension as well. So we're operating on a different playing field now, and it's one of that's just, you know, rich in opportunities for discovery. And so what I share with you tonight is, this afternoon I should say, so some of what we've been discovering in California, and particularly with respect to CBD. So let's see if we can get this going. Uh-oh, no computer. Oh, it always happens. Oh, here we are. Okay, so let's see how this is. You know, this is kind of reformatted a bit in an odd way, but I just want to, when we speak about medical cannabis, CBD, if it's a CBD-rich remedy, if it's a product you're using that has a significant amount of CBD, it doesn't have to be mainly CBD, but just to be there in some substantive amount, that suggests that there is an unequivocal medical purpose involved in a person taking it. Because particularly with CBD-rich remedies that are low THC, that really aren't psychoactive and won't get you high, there's no, a person, if it's about getting high, a person wouldn't be taking that. So there's something indisputably medical going on here. And that's important, because for a long time, you know, the allegations were, oh, medical marijuana is just a front for stoners. We heard that for more than a decade in California while everybody was being raided all the time. But you can't say that anymore with CBD. It's not just for stoners, and I have no problem with stoners. I am one myself. So, let's talk about CBD in particular to introduce this, because when we're talking about CBD-rich cannabis, we're talking about medicinal cannabis. THC-rich cannabis is also medicinal, but it's more confused because of the way the culture has framed it. So, to talk a little bit about CBD, it's a cannabinoid, a plant cannabinoid. THC is a plant cannabinoid. CBD is not psychoactive like THC is, because it functions in a different way. It hits different receptors and does different things from THC. CBD is present in small amounts in most popular cannabis and hemp strains. CBD is not very prevalent in hemp, because hemp is a low resin plant. CBD occurs in the resin. There's a lot of confusion about hemp and CBD versus cannabis and CBD as well. We'll address that. So astonishing therapeutic potential, some of the characteristics: anti-tumoral, anti-spasmodic, antidepressant, antipsychotic, anti-addictive, anxiolytic, meaning anti-anxiety, antibiotic, analgesic, painkilling. That's a short list, not a long list of CBD's properties. So just a few key dates. CBD was discovered as a molecule by Roger Adams, an American scientist at the University of Illinois in 1940. It wasn't until 1963 that Israeli scientist Raphael Mechoulam identified and elucidated the actual chemical structure of CBD. And the following year, he did that for THC. He identified the structure in '64. And this is just cursory dates. In 1980, there was a small clinical trial in Israel involving, I think, less than a dozen people, where it's pure CBD, just single molecule CBD, was given to a group of people with seizure disorders, and it showed a remarkable potential in that area. I think 5 of 8 stopped seizures, and the rest, you know, lowered dramatically. So it was an early hint, but it never got followed up on. And I think what CBD had become most known for right now is seizures, because of the little children with Dravet and so forth. But as we'll see, I'm going to run through some science reports. It's actually applicable to much more than just that. In 1988, the first cannabinoid receptor, called CB1, it's mainly in the brain and central nervous system. It was discovered in 1988 by a group of American scientists at the St. Louis University Medical School. And that was the first of a series of discoveries of kind of fleshing in the outlines of this very, very important newly discovered physiological system, the endocannabinoid system, even though it's a very ancient system. It's been around for like 500 million years in different animals and so forth. So it's only new in the context of science. A decade later, 1998, there's this famous study that's misrepresented as being a government patent on CBD. What it was a study based on research published in 1998 by the US government, the National Institute of Health sponsored this, showing that CBD and THC both had very strong neuroprotective properties that could protect against strokes and things like that. And this is the basis for the patent that you hear about, that the government has a patent on CBD. They did take a patent out on this 5 years later after this research was reported. But we'll go into that a little more later. In 2007, the question that was asked about CBD and how it affects the your internal system, that was discovered about CBD and the transport molecules I was talking about earlier. That was only discovered 10 years ago. Again, and it takes, scientific discoveries are slow. They build on each other, and this is it's a very dynamic field and new things going on. Okay, so how CBD works. Just one quick, we'll talk about this a little bit, and then we'll look at some of the science. So THC, the way it works is it binds to both of these cannabinoid receptors. There's two of them. There's one in the brain and central nervous system, mainly, called CB1. And then the CB2 cannabinoid receptor is mainly in the peripheral nervous system, the immune system, the peripheral organs. It's not, there's a little yin and the yang, but that's mainly how it is. This is kind of the short version. THC binds to these receptors, and then it makes the cell change and send a signal, and that's how it works. And when it binds to the CB1 receptor in the brain, that's what makes you feel high. And when THC binds to another receptor in the periphery, you feel less pain. So CBD doesn't really bind to these receptors. It binds to a whole bunch of other receptors, including a serotonin receptor, which makes it an antidepressant, and so forth and so on. There's quite a few that's been identified. It binds to non-cannabinoid receptors, and then it has all kinds of activity biochemically through non-receptor ways that CBD managed to do things. And I won't go, the science is quite fascinating, but it's, I think it's been over 60 ways that's been identified by science that CBD actually works in the brain and the body. 60 different pathways. So there's a lot going on, and new things all the time. So what I'm going to do now very quickly is run through a series of science abstracts that we could just look at the title and you get the gist of them. These are all peer-reviewed journals, and there's about, this is all found on the U.S. National Library, the PubMed. They have an online library, the they have a National Library of Medicine. The online version is where all this stuff is. And if you sign on to a service with the word cannabinoid, just as a search word, you will get approximately 50 articles a week from scientific journals around the world, new articles being published. So if you imagine, again, how much information is coming out, and 50 is sort of a slow one, and it goes up to 100 sometimes a week. So this is all from the National Library of Medicine. The first study we have here is on the safety and side effects of CBD. This is a Brazilian study, which it states chronic use at high doses are well tolerated in humans, no side effects they found. Again, sorry for the a little bit, it's a little off the way it transferred the file. CBD as a painkiller. The actual abstract, the title is Non-Psychoactive Cannabis Constituent CBD is an orally effective therapeutic agent in rat chronic inflammatory and neuropathic pain. This is all animal studies we're dealing with here, except for that first one from Brazil that was tested on humans. But so there isn't a lot of research allowed with CBD in the United States because of prohibition. You can't do a lot of research on clinical research on humans. So most of this is preclinical data, but it's very compelling. Next one, CBD as an anticonvulsant, anti-seizure. This, again, what we're most familiar with. And this is from Seizure magazine from 2011, 2 years before the CNN show. CBD exerts anticonvulsant